Kids and cadets, welcome back to Tommy Time. Thanks for coming out, revisiting this $10 yard machine. It's a 2010 build date, February 15th, 2010. The MTD number, the Briggs engine number, and the cable number. So we did an initial video on this. We're able to start it by putting an aftermarket carburetor on this. I got this in a deal, 20 for the snapper, which started, and then this Craftsman blower, which I spent a little time on today and got this to start. I just had to adjust the carburetor to get it to idle. So that seemed to work out for me. So why don't we paint the recoil? I kind of took this thing apart, degreased it, and it's been drying in the sun along with the engine block. We can paint this thing up and make it look pretty, and then we'll come over here and discuss the carb that came off of it. I ended up tearing this down. This is the replacement carb that we started the unit with. So I got a can of Shaker Black paint in my hand. Let's shake this thing up just to make it look a little nicer. The beauty ring will go on top of this like so, but you can still see some of the rust here on the side. So why don't we make it look pretty? If it looks pretty, it'll sell. So let's get busy with that. I'm using, this is just Lowe's, I believe, Project Source. They're cheap spray paint, $2.49 a can. I believe this is Lowe's brand, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, let's get busy with this. Just to cover the rust. I didn't even sand it or anything. This is just not even a scuff and shoot. There was no scuffing at all. I'm just going to shoot it with some black gloss here. Some of this will be covered with that beauty ring. I figured this can dry while we're messing with the carburetor. It's kind of windy in Southwest Florida. All my product is blowing away. Okay, something like that. Okay, we'll leave that be for right now. Let me move you down here to the double turds. We're going to spray paint the engine block. I've already went ahead and changed the oil. I accidentally had an oil spill, unfortunately, so that's got to be picked up later on. I sharpened the blade. That's how this all oil spill ended up happening. So I'm just going to take some advertisement paper here and use that as my overspray blocker. I'm going to do the head area and then just keep moving around to the side. I took a 1/2 inch socket and tightened up the head bolts. I always do that. They just can come loose after a couple years. I got the dipstick off so I can paint around this area. It's not going to be exceptionally pretty. It's just going to serve a purpose. Something like that. There's an air gap here that I just tucked the paper underneath. I'll go ahead and do the muffler. When this starts, that paint will burn off. I do have barbecue grill black, but I didn't bring it out. See, I got some overspray here. I was talking and not doing my job. This is going to be a low cost machine anyway. But still, you got to take pride in your work. Okay. Now we'll move to the back side. I won't even mess with the handle at all. I'll just do the engine block. I won't paint over the engine ID barcode. I'll kind of shield that like so. Do a little bit up here. Then we'll come on this side where the gas tank is going to sit. This isn't too critical on this side. Most of this is going to be blocked. Something like that. I could take some used used gas with a rag and kind of go along here and get any overspray. But I'm going to leave it like that. Remind me to screw this down in a minute so that continues to dry. Had the coil off, clean that up. What else? Degrease the whole thing. Like I said, I let it sit in the sun. So I did double gasket this carb that came off of the machine. This is the test carb. I ended up double gasking it. We do have a little bit better gas flow. Like every other time, it'll shoot straight through the carb. So I think we're good on this. So let me show you the carb that this unit gave us. So I ended up taking the screws off. Total rust. This pocket was full of water, rusty water. So as I was putting pressure on the tank to get these screws off, I kind of pushed too hard here and the rust kind of knocked itself out. So just pressure on the bottom here gave me two giant holes. So I don't think I can do much with this tank. There's another rust hole that I just poked. Just felt it was soft and it poked right through. So I think this one's shot. This is going in the scrap bin. This is just too big to try to fill with that AB stuff. but I can reuse the carb once I clean it up. So why don't we start from fresh? This is a tank I had sealed with red coat before, and it's ready to go. Why don't we kind of rebuild this thing here from scratch with just a second carburetor that I have. Something like this I got for a backup. It's similar to the one we're installing on this yard machine. So the primer bulb's got some wear on it. I don't know if that was cockroach damage, but the clip here was broken, so I just took a small screwdriver and just worked this clip up. So we're going to put a new primer bulb on it. So when you got this off, you want to look at that little check valve, make sure that's free and clear. There's a little ball there with a spring behind it. Just give that a poke. Make sure that ball bearing moves back and forth. We're going to clean up all this dirt here. So I got air pressure. So I kind of used too much air pressure. I ended up blasting that little check valve out, and it's in my grass somewhere. So let me grab another carburetor. I put too much air pressure in there and it blasted that out. So here, let's start over again. Be careful when you're messing with this check valve. Too much pressure and that whole green grommet ended up falling off. This one here is much cleaner. I'll just give it a light blast. Try not to destroy this one. Okay. This is what I like to do on these. You got your fuel pump spring, your little screen. I like to remove the jet and clean the tube. So what you do for that is remove the little brass wafer. So take some needle nose or some pliers, reach in there, grab the brass wafer, take that out. Now your plastic keeper is going to come out. Put that aside. Now you can see the top of the jet assembly in there. I'm going to stick a screwdriver in and just put some downward pressure on this thing, and it pops out here at the bottom. There's an O-ring that keeps it in place. So you just want to inspect this, make sure there's no gunk blocking those holes or that hole, and then take a little bread wrapper wire and just poke it through the jet like so. That's clear, and this is clear. So we're good to go on the jet. I can reinstall the jet right in there. So push that back into place like so. My throttle assembly, this V forms a V. Make sure it's in the middle of this little notch, not over there or not over here. It's got to be in the middle. These two tabs act as stops on that notch. grab my brass wafer, slide it back into the hole, check that we have free and clear movement. We do. So now it's time to put the diaphragm kit together. I gotta see if I even got screws for this project. I'll have to reuse some screws. Okay, I got screws. So I saved another paper gasket from another project. I ended up peeling a bad diaphragm away from it and saved the paper part of it. So what we're going to do is paper down first. Actually, I may use a new paper down first. The diaphragm kit is 495770 on these diaphragm kits. Let me look for a razor. I thought I had a razor here. Let me grab a razor so I can cut this. I wasn't ready for you. Rusty razor. So that's that. Why don't we, this is the, yeah, it's the messed up one. Why don't we put the primer bulb on first. So it's got two notches on the side. Those two tabs go in those notches. So we're just going to stick it in and use a couple of screwdrivers to guide it down in. Something like that. You could also use a socket, push it down in. Be careful not to puncture the red rubber, because this thing needs to be airtight to push fuel. I just heard a click, 2 clicks. Maybe center your clip on each side. Okay, so that's in. Now back to this. I'll put the good gasket down first, then the rubber gasket second. Oh, that's upside down. Something like that. And then my gasket that I'm reusing on top. Make sure my little fuel pocket's clean. It is. Primer bulb faces us. Faces the front. Let me start with one screw, get one started so it's lined up. Okay, it looks like we're doing well on lining them up. So it doesn't take much to rebuild these classic style, quattro style. Or the sprint style carbs. I kind of like them for their simplicity. The only really moving part you're going to have is this rubber diaphragm, and these kits are cheap. You can get a 10-pack of these for a couple of bucks. You know what I forgot? I forgot the screen. Some people leave it off, some leave it on. Since we're not too far into it, I'm going to take the carb off and put it on. If Harvey, the homeowner, should buy this and is not diligent with his clean fuel, this might save him. This little screen sock. The newer style carbs, the aftermarket ones, have them built on. So put that over the jet where it should go, something like that. If all goes right, I could just set this back down and things will line up. If the moon and the planets and the sun are aligned and it's high tide on the third Wednesday of the month, oh boy, it did all align. I better get some lottery tickets. Okay, so I'm just gonna snug these down and then do my crisscross applesauce like we did on the secondary carburetor. Okay, I'm just snugging them first. Get them where they just touching the plastic. I'm not putting any pressure on the screw, just snugging them down to start. Okay, so I'm going to start up on that corner, give that a little snug, come down to this corner, snug up here in this corner, opposite corner, snug, and end up here in the middle, snug. Start back here, a little more, quarter turn, come back down, snuggy, snuggy, and then back, and then one more pass should be good enough. Okay, that's good. Nice and tight. Come down here, up here. Eighth of a turn. Okay, now it's on. Now we're ready to go. So I'd be able to put some fuel in here and then check my primer bulb if we were going to install this. I just wanted to show you how to do the diaphragm kit, so this one would be ready to go. So let's come back down here, finish putting this thing together. Paint field's dry, so why don't we go to town on this, start putting it back. I'll throw the original plug in it. This had a bunch of rust on it. I ended up using some sandpaper to clean this up. It's got actually a J19LM. So let's get this all squared away first. Grab my plug socket. Okay, that's snug. The plug wire goes in a little notch here. Make sure when you put the recoil on, you don't pinch the wire. Okay, I'll put my dipstick down now and tighten that up. Okay. Earlier I had put some oil in there to oil this thing up. Spring was rusty. This will help it along in the future. Put a little bit of oil here. It'll just prolong the life of that spring in there. I kind of put the screws back in the holes where I took them out, so kind of keep things organized. What else do we got to do? See the wire, make sure it goes into that little notch and it's not binding. Okay, it's not. And then I have one other piece that I got to put on this side. It's this little holder thing that I just painted. I got to figure out what I did with it. This thing. Got to put this on. Okay, we're moving along. I just got to get my 10mm socket, kind of get these started. Okay, I got them started. Why don't we put the carb on next, and then I'll finish tightening up the recoil screws. Okay, so we've got our keeper and the O-ring is in. Let me just fish the linkage into the carburetor there. Okay. Push it on the intake. Okay, I see an issue. The little air deflector here is on the outside of the recoil. It needs to be pushed in on the inside. Hopefully I can manipulate it through like that. There we go. It just popped into where it needed to go. That deflects all the air over the cylinder. This little piece of sheet metal keeps the air against the engine so it cools those fins. Okay, put it back into place now. Trying to juggle a couple of things at the same time. Thanks for reminding me about the 90-degree elbow. Okay, hook that up. Get this 1/2-inch bolt started here. Air veins moving free and clear. Okay, now it's time to start putting this thing together. Okay, that's feels like it's going in crooked. I don't want to strip it, it's just aluminum. Okay, we're on course now. I think. I'm going to back that off just a tad because I have to put my tin right there. Something's not lining up. My tin doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, I had to put some pressure on it. It didn't want to cooperate. Okay. Tighten this one down. Springs are still free. Okay, so that one's on. That one's on. Plug wire is still loose and not binding. Okay. There's a little screw here for the beauty ring. Fish that cord through here, goes something like that. There's a little clip here on the front. So that's on. I've got a socket for that nearby, right there. Okay. And then I got this plastic guard which goes back here over the linkage, the kill mechanism linkage, kill coil. Those often get thrown away or lost, these little plastic covers. So this kind of was a complete unit. I didn't notice anything missing on this thing. That's a 7mm. The only thing I didn't do was clean out the air filter. No, that wasn't it. It was a plastic one. Yeah, it was this one here. I ended up spraying some lubricant and was able to get this thing up. You can see all the rust on this. That's the air filter. I'm going to blast this out real quick. We can put this on. So this is the 272235, or the 235S is in Sam. 272235 is the air filter number. So what I'm going to do, I had done a video on oiling these things up before. I'm just going to take a little oil here. Just pick a couple of spots to dump some oil like that. You don't want to go too crazy. That should be good enough. Put it back in the bag and just take out your frustrations. Move that oil around. It'll just help catch the smaller particles. If you were not to oil it, it would let some of the smaller stuff get by. So that's a little tacky. That's good enough. Something like that. So the air is going to enter through these locations, and that filter is going to stop a lot of your particles. Okay, let's turn you back around. I'm going to dip the end of this screw in some used oil. Let's see if it's priming. Yeah, it's priming a little bit better than it was on the tailgate. Just kind of hand tighten that. Give it another couple of pulls. Our wires on. So let's give it a try. So that worked out well. I'm happy with that. You can see the paint burning off of the muffler. If I had grill spray painted that, it wouldn't have bubbled up, but it looks better than it does rusty. What do you think? Is it still a double turd? I'm going to try it out on my lawn, although the grass hasn't really started growing yet. Let's see what we can do. So I'm happy with that. The adjusters still need some attention. I did oil them up earlier, but I got to break these things free. I was able to break free that back wheel, but these adjusters were stuck. So I think it'll be done after that. Oil was changed. I sharpened the blade. You could see it kind of cut it kind of low. I usually don't cut that low to the ground. So that worked out well. 2010. The dust kicked up here on the muffler. I'm just checking the oil since it ran. Oh, it still looks pretty clean. I figured it might have got gunked up, but it doesn't look terribly bad. So let's get you back over on the concrete. Okay, that's it. That's all I got for you. So we're able to turn this around kind of quickly just by eliminating that orange juice. I still have the juice, but I'm not going to drink it for breakfast. I'll dispose of this properly. Anyway, here we go again. The MTD number, the Briggs number, and that cable number. Thanks for coming out. 2 long videos. We're able to get this going, kind of surprised. It is still kind of a turdy machine. I may knock it down to knock it down to a 1 just because it's rusty. Just for the rust factor, it still gets 1 turd. But for mechanically, the blade, oil change, new air filter, all that helps it along. It just gets a turd due to the rusty deck. You remember the underside was pretty rough as well. Okay, I'm going to end this one. Thanks for coming out again for another long video. Appreciate you kids and cadets. And as always, tip your waitress and wait staff. They do an awesome job. They really appreciate your tips. You'll really make them happy if you tip generously. Because I know there's some people out there that don't leave a tip. And these folks work so hard, it kind of hurts their feelings when you don't leave a tip. Anyway, take care. Thanks again. Let me know what you think. Comments below. I read them.